Capitals play the Blues, and you're watching Post to Post.
Hello and welcome to Post, the channel where we discuss all things hockey and all teams, and we're finally at the point of doing the report card of the last team that missed the playoffs. I'll do all the other teams that are in the playoffs now once they get eliminated. As I'm filming this, the playoffs haven't even started. So once the teams start to get eliminated, I'll continue this series and do those teams as well once their season comes to an end. But as of right now, this is the last team that I can do, which is the St. Louis Blues. One of my favorite teams. Not happy about making this video, mostly so because of how their season ended. The destiny was in their hands, and they let it slip through. Very frustrating. As with the other videos in this series, I'm going to have the stats from last year on this side, stats from this year on this side. Anything in green is an improvement, anything in red is not an improvement. I'm going to go through all the categories, talk about some players, talk about the goalies, and then talk about some positive and negative storylines from their season. So let's just run through these statistics really quick. So league rank, last year they were 10th, this year 18th. Points last year 99, this year 94. Goals for last year 233, this year 223. Goals for rank, last year 12th, this year 24th. Goals against last year 216, this year 226. Goals against rank last year 13th, this year 6th. Differential last year plus 17, this year plus 4. Differential rank last year 12th, this year 18th. Power play percentage 21.3% last year, 15.4% this year. Yikes. Last year they were 8th in that category, this year they're 30th. Penalty kill last year 84.8%, this year 79.7%. Third in that category last year, 18th in the category this year. So clearly a very big dramatic jump in special teams for the St. Louis Blues. Shots per game last year 28.4, this year 32.6. Shots per game rank last year 26th, this year 13th. Shots against per game last year 28.4, this year 29.7. Last year in that category they were ranked 6th, this year they're ranked 3rd. And in the last category, face-offs, 50.3% last year, which had them in 12th position, and 50.6% this year, which had them in 11th position. If we jump over to the players, we've got Schenn with 70 points, Tarasenko with 66, Schwartz with 59, Pietrangelo with 54, Steen with 46, Parayko with 35, Brodziak with 33, Sobotka 31, Berglund 26, Dunn 24, Upshaw 19, Evanston 17, and so on. The names go on from there. So I feel like Tarasenko underperformed a little bit. He had some shoulder issues, obviously, and again at the end of the season he has to get surgery. I think they just announced yesterday or today he has to get more surgery on his shoulder, so that's very unfortunate. But at least they're not in the playoffs, and then losing him, that would feel like even worse, I think. So maybe a bit of a relief on his part that he won't have to let the team down like that. Not that he would be letting the team down intentionally, but obviously accidentally. As far as goal scoring goes, Schenn with 28, Tarasenko with 33, Schwartz with 24. Only 3 players on the team in that 20-plus category for goals. So it's a team that's... I mean, Tarasenko is clearly a goal scorer, but Schenn had a career season, so I don't know if I'd really consider him to be at that peak level of goal scoring. And Schwartz also had a very good year, so it's 15, 15, 6, 10, 11, 17, 5, 7, 7. So they're getting goals from other areas, but it's not as significant as those top 3 players. There's a pretty drastic jump there. If we go to the goaltenders, Allen, 59 games played, 27 wins, 25 losses, 2.75 goals against average, .906 save percentage. And then over to Hutton, 32 games played, 17 wins, 7 losses, 2.09 goals against average, .931 save percentage. Hutton's numbers are unbelievable. I was very surprised to see him not play that last game. But anyway, so like I said, Schenn had a career season, which was really awesome to see. It's whenever there's a trade, like we saw Laterra go to Philadelphia and just be, I don't want to use the word garbage, but he's so terrible. And to see who he was traded for do so well, that doesn't happen that often. So when it does happen, when you're on the losing side of things, it's very frustrating. Strong backup goaltending, like I said, Hutton, his numbers are unbelievable. But the team seems to play different in front of each goalie, and I'm not sure why that is, but I think it might have to do with the way that Jake Allen plays. And what I mean by that is his consistency. He's a very streaky, hot-cold goalie, and when he's hot, he's unbelievable. The saves that Jake Allen can make is remarkable, but when he's cold. And you never kind of know what Jake Allen you're going to get usually. So I think it's maybe tough for the players to not necessarily have the confidence in their goaltender. It's tough to say because Jake Allen's my favorite player in the entire league. I love Jake Allen, and it's tough to see him go through that as well. But I really hope that he finds consistency next year, because it's been 2 years in a row where he's been pretty inconsistent, and his numbers aren't that bad. He's pretty average in the league, but he's just so streaky and like there's stretches where he'll win like 15 games in a row, and like he'll play 8 games and then he'll take a break, and then Hutton will play a game and they'll put Jake Allen back in net and he'll win another 7 or 8 games. And then there's times where he'll go on a 9-game losing streak. Obviously, the team has a bit to do with that as well, but yeah. The team, what I've noticed in watching St. Louis this year is they give up a lot of odd man rushes, and I think it wasn't the last game they played. It wasn't the second last game they played. I think it was the third last game they played. I can't remember who it was against. Chicago, maybe? And I think they gave up, I think it was like 7 odd man rushes in the third period alone, or the second period. I can't remember. I watched so much hockey recently. But I remember being very frustrated and like, what are you doing? You're playing Chicago, who's struggling this year, who has injury issues, who's playing a backup, not only a backup, they were playing their 4th-string goalie, I think, at the time. Excuse me. And they couldn't defend against Chicago, and it was driving me insane. Next on my list is Mike Yeo's temper. So, I don't know if you guys remember, but when Mike Yeo was with Minnesota, he had a big freakout session. It was, I can't remember if it was the beginning of last season or the end of the season before that. I can't remember exactly when he joined the Blues. I think it was halfway through last season, but I remember there being video of him freaking out at the Minnesota Wild players. And he's been known to have a bit of a temper. I don't know how players react to that. When I played hockey, I didn't react well to that style of coaching. I always really liked a player's coach like Gerard Gallant. But some players do react to that yelling style of play. So sometimes it can be effective, sometimes it can't be. I'm wondering if some of the players kind of feel like I do and don't like the temper that Mike Yeo has, and therefore maybe not giving up on him, but not giving him as much as they could. Excuse me, sorry, I'm still quite sick. They do have great defensive depth, like probably one of the best defensive cores in the National Hockey League. You look at Nashville, you look at Tampa. There's so many teams with great backends. St. Louis is right there. They have so many key pieces for the future and for now. If they can just, I call them the Washington Capitals of the West, because they're always such a good regular season team and they never get that far in the playoffs. But on paper, they look so good. Schwartz's injury was very unfortunate. At the time it happened, I think he was a plus 24, 25 in the league, which was the best in the league. And he remained at that spot while he was injured because it didn't change. Obviously, he wasn't playing. And then he came back and it fell a little bit since then. But he still had a really good year, and it's unfortunate that he did get injured. Of all the young players on St. Louis, Tage Thompson is one that I followed quite a bit this year. And he did a lot of important things on the ice, but I noticed that he gave away the puck a lot, and he was a bit of a defensive liability. And it was really minuscule. I probably shouldn't even be talking about this, but it's just really nitpicky because I watched him so closely. But I did feel like he did a lot of positive things on the ice too, and I think he's a great fit for St. Louis, and I can't wait to see him grow in the team. The last thing I have on here is the last thing that ended their season. It was the failure to win big games. They had to beat Colorado. I think they only had to get them into overtime. So they just needed like 1 point basically, and they were in the playoffs. They couldn't do it. Colorado beat them, and St. Louis had opportunity after opportunity in previous games in that last 10-game stretch to win games, and they just couldn't do it. And I wanted St. Louis to win that game. I wanted St. Louis to get in the playoffs, but at the same time, I don't feel bad because of they had so many opportunities to get there, and they just didn't take them. So it's frustrating, but I don't feel bad at the same time. So it's a team that had an off season. I think they'll be competitive next year. I think they'll make the playoffs next year. That would be my prediction. Where they'll fall in the division, I'm not sure, but I'm confident that St. Louis will definitely bounce back. They have some decisions to make in the offseason, and we'll discuss them in the offseason after the playoffs are over and when we preview each team for the next season. So thank you guys very much for watching this video. If you are new here, please hit the subscribe button. If you did like this video, please hit the like button below, and I'll see you in the next one. Adios.